Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video covering why I think Garden of the Gilded is the easiest Golden Wonder to clear in Age of Wonders 4, and why I think it should be harder to clear out. So when we go in here and we go to Explore, we'll see that the army strength is pretty strong for the enemy. That's not nothing. We can make this fight a little bit easier with the counterspell to give ourselves hastened, and that does help out a little bit. Um, but usually when you're trying to attack things like golden wonders or silver wonders or even bronze wonders, you want a little bit more army strength if you're going to auto combat. If you are going to use manual combat, you might be able to get away with something like this, but it's definitely a lot harder to do. And I found it very surprising that when I went into auto combat this, I was able to win it without any losses. It's it's just not what you would expect from this type of fight. And when we actually look at some of the effects in the fight, it starts to make more sense. So let's go into we'll retry it, and I can toggle on auto to get it to recreate the steps it took um, to get to that victory. So basically, the big reason why this fight is a lot easier than you would expect it to be is this modifier makes it so that the enemies can't move for the first few turns of the fight, or most of them can't. I think the main hero, he starts off not gilded, and all of these other units, they can't do anything because they're just stunned until this effect passes off of them, which is only going to happen once every 2 turns. So basically, you're going to be able to fight each of these units down if you're able to get over to the enemy quick enough. So yeah, that's why you want to have hasten that allows your guys to get over to the enemy a little bit quicker. Let's toggle on auto combat just to see how my guys would approach it. I think I gave myself some pretty big advantages here by making my heroes all ranged. That means they don't have to run as far to get to the enemy to do some damage. And I also crafted them up some special like tier 4 weapons. I think if I allow them to keep taking actions, it will pull me away from the menu here. This guy's got a nice special tier 4 item that I made that does a lot of status effects and does quite a bit of damage. He's also on the Severing Mount, which I got from I think it was an astral infestation. So that's a pretty good infestation to clear out early. It's kind of got some harder units, but I think it's definitely worth it. I crafted this, and I think I got this weapon here, which helped out quite a bit in the auto combat. The Chaos Orb deals a random amount of damage, and it afflicts a random status effect. So that can be like distracted or stunned. And I think when I was watching this earlier, it was able to get stunned to land on Midas himself. Midas does have a 60% chance to gild an enemy, so he's not terrible once he gets into melee range, but if he's got no support, he's relatively easy to pick off before the fight even gets going. As you can see here, he retreated this time, but in one of my other tests that I did, he just ran forward without any support, and I was able to get him pretty quickly. But I wanted to test if auto combat was able to do this without any losses, and I found that this composition was able to do that. Basically, one melee with a bunch of ranged and some summons was how I was able to get auto combat to get through this pretty easily. I think I had some good signature skills on some of these units too. You have to get rid of Dispel, or you have to get rid of Gilded if it does apply on your units. So I would recommend bringing Dispel to this fight if you're going to take this fight. And yeah, that's more or less, I think, all of the tricks that I use to get auto combat to get the results we saw earlier. I think at this point, I'm just going to turn up the speed of the video and then we can discuss more once the combat is over. Heroes all ranged. That means they don't have to run as far to get to the enemy to do some damage. And I also crafted them up some special like tier 4 weapons. I think if I allow them to keep taking actions, it will pull me away from the menu here. This guy's got a nice special tier 4 item that I made that does a lot of status effects and does quite a bit of damage. He's also on the Severing Mount, which I got from I think it was an astral infestation. So that's a pretty good infestation to clear out early. It's kind of got some harder units, but I think it's definitely worth it. I crafted this and I think I got this weapon here, which helped out quite a bit in the auto combat. The Chaos Orb deals a random amount of damage and it afflicts a random. So as you saw in that fight, the combat enchantment made this a lot weaker than it would have been otherwise. I think because it decided to wake up the higher tier units after the lower tier units, this fight was more like a 500 strength fight or an 800 strength fight because I think this guy's worth about 400 combat points, and same with this one. It was estimating about 1500. So realistically, I had to deal with 800 combat strength, and then after that, deal with another 800-ish combat strength or weaker because the Golden Dragon died before it got any actions. That's a pretty significant swing in my favor, and if I had known this fight was going to be as easy as this, I wouldn't have waited until this late in the game to take it on. I think it's quite reasonable to take this side out around turn 15 or 20. If you build your heroes the right way, if you give them the right support, you can get to this location a lot earlier, and that can allow you to get I think a tier 5 unit faster than any other source of a tier 5 unit in the game. You can get yourself a nice golden golem, which is pretty amazing, but it's not the only thing you get for clearing this out. If you clear this out, and then I think attach it to one of your cities, you get the Summer Progenitor Golem, which is amazing. There are some other benefits, like you can crack the vault, which gives you some knowledge and mana. That's okay, it's not terrible. You get some extra Imperium and knowledge if you attach it to your city. I probably want to go in here and turn this into a city so that I could get this attached as soon as possible for those benefits. But the fact that you can summon a Progenitor Golem as a combat spell will make it so that certain fights are just a lot easier. If you're able to do that around turn 20 against opponents who didn't have access to this ancient wonder, it's basically game over. You basically win at that point because you get this attack, which you saw my Severing Golem mount doing. It's quite powerful. It weakens enemies, makes them easier to kill. You can seal in a unit so that they are basically unable to affect the fight if until the linked unit dies, or uh, I think there's maybe one other way to do it, right? Yeah, basically you have to kill the unit. And then it also has breaching bolts, which ignores resistance. That's quite nice. There's some things that ignore armor, like the mage lock. Um, but this not only ignores resistance, it deals 50% of damage to adjacent enemies. So it's kind of like fire burst weapons, I think, in Age of Wonders Planetfall, and I think they have fire burst in Age of Wonders 4 as well. So yeah, this is all around amazing. So I just spent a few minutes trying to get one of the other new golden wonders to spawn into one of my maps, the Sepulcher of Steel. But I also found that this one is a new one that gives you the Summon Progenitor Golem, and I found that it's pretty easy to clear out too. I may have to walk back my statement about the other golden wonder, the Garden of the Gilded, being the easiest one, because this one seems pretty easy as well. But this time it's not because of the combat effect. It really has more to do with the starting army strength. As you can see here, this Golden Wonder only has a starting army strength of 685. I think a lot of that is coming from the Progenitor Golem and the fact that all these other units can evolve into some pretty aggressive units could be a problem theoretically. If the fight goes on long enough, they could turn into something that is a problem, but I think it would be worth actually focusing down the smaller units to avoid that in this fight. And I found that this relatively weak army was able to clear this Golden Wonder without any losses as well in auto combat. I believe I did spend a little bit of mana to give myself some extra, my guys a little bit of bolstering defense to see if I could do this without any losses. And as you can see here, no losses. I haven't actually checked the Sepulcher of Steel, but it sounds like it's at least reasonably easy to clear. If you can do it around turn 19, it can't be much harder than the ones that we just looked at here. So that's a pretty interesting design choice. These Golden Wonders are relatively easy to clear, and they give you some very powerful bonuses. I'm not sure if any of these numbers will change in the future, but it does seem maybe like it's a little bit weak right now. That's everything I had for you this week. I'll see you around. Have a good one.